Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Anthony podcast. Today's guest is a recurring guest, Dom Smith from Guinea Hoya, wobbling about, rocking out, sound spear, wrestle spear, and so many other different platforms. We talk about Dom's journey through journalism, interviewing, and disability. The, the, se- the second part will be released on the 22nd, so stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for the support. Have a good day. Stay safe. Bye bye. How you doing today, Dom?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be back. It's good to be back right here on the Anthony podcast. It's great to see you, man.
Great to see you too. So today I'm going to talk about interviewing, but we probably will take a bit of a detour as we always do. But the main topic is going to be interviewing and journalism. So when did you think that you wanted to get into journalism?
Yeah, so I started my career probably so when I was a kid, I really wanted to write. I always wanted to write stories, and my family encouraged me to do that. Now, um, I love writing, but I also love, as you know, because we've had many deep conversations, you and I love talking to people. So, I always knew that I wanted to tell stories. I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to write books or I wanted to do interviews. I wanted to do journalism. I decided to do journalism. Again, so I decided at first when I was like 16. I got my first start in journalism around 18 and a little bit older. I did a degree. I actually did my degree in film and television, but then I went and did a master's in journalism. And yeah, like basically just got the bug from there. I love talking to people. And as you know, as we've talked about, because I like to think you and I have a very similar style because I love your style of interviewing where like it's more like a chat than it is a particular set of questions. I know we talked before about how sometimes with time limits, it's very useful to have specific questions written out, but where possible, I think it's very important that you turn an interview into a chat because it flows better. Some stuff that maybe you didn't plan on coming out will come out, and it can turn into something really really
You,
cool. So
you
yeah.
don't you don't want it to turn into an interrogation, do you?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're very right. It's that is it. It's the you don't want to turn it into an interrogation, and unfortunately, I don't think I've ever had that. I've been called meandering, and I've been called a couple of other things. But that is my style. That is my style. I own it. And that is who I am. You can go on Soundsphere, you can go on WrestleSphere, ScreenSphere, wobbling about, rocking out, and you can see my style. And if it's for you, that's great. If it isn't, that's fine as well. I've tried to be, I tried to be a different, different style of interviewer when I was younger, and I wasn't as happy with my work. I am the same right here with you as I am the same in an interview when I'm talking to somebody else. So that it is me, and I think that's what comes through with your work and a few other people we know as well.
The, the, the reason why I was laughing there because I find being meandering is a good way to an extent
Yeah,
because what and sometimes you get interviewers and they ask the question and then they don't know how to follow up or they don't know how to interact with people.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's just about listening to what people say. And one of the things I've noticed about, and I think we've talked about this before, one of the things I notice about the way you interview is you'll do, and this would make you a very good counselor as well. As you know, I have another job as a mental health professional, um, is that you pick up on what people say and you say, well, you said this there. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And that's what, other people that you and I watch, and like Chris Van Vliet and various other, interviewers across sports entertainment or lifestyle, they'll do that. They'll really listen. They'll pick up on what someone's saying and they'll inquire as to that. So you'll say something, like you picked up on my use of the word meandering there, and that is a skill that not everybody has, and it should be something to be cherished. And that's why you're still doing this. That's why you're still getting attention for your work, in my view, because you really give a. I always forget if I could swear on the
Yeah,
podcast, or whether the rules have changed as you become more successful. But I'll just say,
it's,
go on.
it's up to you. It,
Yeah.
it's up to you. Whatever you want to do. If
Well,
you
that
if a swear word comes out, it's not the end of the world. But I'm not going to force anybody to say so. So that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's why people give a monkeys about your. I'll hold the swearing. That's why people give a monkeys, at least till the later part of the interview. That's why people give a monkeys about what you do, is because you do give a monkeys. You do care. That's the crucial bit. It isn't just another interview, another set of generic questions. It's you really care about it, and that's the important thing. I One of the best compliments I get, two of the best compliments I get, and I would say this to anybody, looking at this who wants to get into journalism, is well done on your research. You've done good research, and it doesn't matter if you've got 10 minutes to prepare for an interview or 3 hours. Still do your research by watching like the most recent interview or whatever, or reading the most recent interview with the person you're speaking to. The other one is you could tell you really care. You could tell that you really, I felt that you really gave a monkeys. And that is the most valuable bit of feedback I can get as an interviewer, as a journalist.
So, so you mentioned how you broke in just doing volunteer work. So
Mm.
did you have like a mentor, like somebody that took you under their wing, so to speak?
Yeah. I want to shout out Giles Morehouse. I want to shout out Jen Walker. And I want to shout out Faye Lewis. Now, these are the people that were at Rock Sound when I started at Rock Sound, when I did my internship. Darren Taylor as well, who was the editor at the time. I want to shout them out because they gave me, there were other people as well, but they gave me they helped me out. They supported me. They gave me interviews. Now, the one thing I will say is that, I would say to any young journalist is to, if you want to do an internship or a work placement, or you want to work for your favorite magazine, you best be prepared to justify why it's your favorite magazine. Why do you read it? Who do you like reading in this magazine? So for me, it was Giles, at Rock Sound. Giles used to write about industrial music. Now, industrial music, for those that don't know, I grew up on that style. That is the most accessible version of it's probably a band like The Prodigy. My favorite band is a band called Nine Inch Nails, and it's the fusion of live rock music, so rock music in the traditional sense, and electronic music as well. So that might be synthesizers, keys, a backing track, something of that nature. And Giles specialized in this as well. So Giles used to write about all of my favorite bands, and I found, so many of my favorite bands through Giles's writing. So what happened was I went and did my internship at Rock Sound in London, and by the end of it, because Giles was a freelancer. He wasn't in the office all the time, like Jen and Faye and Darren were doing. And yeah, so I had to ask for Charles's details. I had to be like, look, I don't want to stalk this guy. Like, I'm not trying to be weird, but like, I really like his writing. Not in a stalkery weird way. But can you put me in touch with him? And they did. And then Giles became a friend of mine. So much so, Anthony, that I got an interview through Giles with a band called Rammstein. Now, Rammstein are one of the bigger heavy metal bands in the world. They're a German speaking uh, industrial metal band. And at that time, my career, so I'd only ever done a handful of interviews. I had no business doing an interview of that caliber. So I'd come back from London. I'd finished my internship. I was on the phone in my mum's living room because at those days, if you didn't live in London, and you wanted to get interviews, it was usually done by phone in the same way that we do Zoom nowadays.
Yeah.
I was on the phone uh, speaking with this band, a member of this band, and yeah, it was one of the bigger interviews I could have done at that time. People still talk about it to this day. If you go to the hashtag SoundsphereMag, SoundsphereMag on Instagram, you can still see people talking about that. So Giles gave me that interview. I think he also set me up with so another one of my favorite bands is a band called Placebo, and he set me, and I probably had the connection to do that through Giles, if not, Jen Walker as well, who set me up with some other opportunities. So, I couldn't have done that without that time, without that internship. And I would say to any young person, if you can afford to go to London to do an internship with your favorite magazine, absolutely do that. Of course, I will always clarify I was able to do that because half my family are split between London and Yorkshire. I was able to live in London for free. Not everybody has the luxury of doing that, which is why we set up Soundsphere magazine to support young people across the north of England and around the country that couldn't afford to do that. But in answer to your question, that's how I got my start. I was very, very lucky to go to an office, to go to London, to meet people. And that shows you the value of doing that, the value of connecting, the value of networking in that way.
Wait,
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. Was that your first big interviewing that band, or did you do stuff before that when it came to interviewing?
Yeah, yeah. While I was at Rock Sound, I interviewed Biffy Clyro, who
Mm.
were, of course, a big level rock band now, headlining festivals internationally. So I did that with them. But Ramstein was the first big interview because it wasn't even for Rock Sound through Giles. It was just through the connections I made at Rock Sound. That was Soundsphere's first big interview. Soundsphere. So the first print issue that we ever did, which is now digitally available for free if you want to go check that out. Ramstein are on the cover,
You think
all because I went to Rock Sound and did an
you
internship.
think you think in hindsight, you think you're ready for that interview, like looking back on it now?
Oh no, oh no. But this is it, it's the same. There'll be interviews that you've done on this channel where you're like, you know, do I do it because I'm nervous? Do I? You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to try. You got to try. Most of my career, because I'm still nervous now. I get nervous all the time, right? Um, Most of my career has just been doing stuff that like I've probably tried to talk myself out of 1,000 times. Whether that's being on stage in a band or interviewing bands or traveling or anything like that. I can always find an excuse, and we can all, anybody watching this who is a young person who wants to get into journalism, there'll always be an excuse not to do it, but nobody can take away the experience of doing it. Nobody can take away that experience from you. You will always have that. It's not about whether other people care about it. It's not about what it means to other people. Hopefully it connects with other people, of course, but it's about, no one could take that from you. That Ramstein interview meant the world to me because it effectively launched Soundsphere, and I could not have done it without Giles. I could not have done it without Jen, without Faye, without Darren, those other people at Rock Sound that gave me that time of day, that gave me that chance. And that's what we try and do at Soundsphere. We try and give people those chances.
You know, all of them people that you mentioned that gave you that chance. Yeah, is it important for you to pass it on for the next generation? Because a lot
Absolutely.
because a lot of people nowadays, I think they're too individualistic.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting point you make. And I think that's a wider, philosophical question, which you and I are, of course, we do have a habit of doing, especially as we record this on a Friday evening. I think that's a generational thing personally. Of course, yeah, people, of course, we can have anything we want now at the click of a button, so I don't think that helps. I think we can have everything instantaneously. But for me personally, going back to the initial question, um, I've been trying to give back to people since I was in my early 20s. I only got my start in journalism, like I say, sort of 18, 19, 20. And I've been helping young people and helping other people since I was about 24, because to me, that's what makes it matter. That's what means something that people invest. If we look at this objectively, not to toot my own horn, but like internationally renowned universities in the UK work with us. University of Central Lancashire, Leeds Beckett, York St John, Hull Uni. These universities, for example, work with us. I was doing a talk at the Wellcome Collection in London the other month, all through SoundSphere, and that comes from the fact that people like what we do. People are invested. We help people. That is what we do, and that is very, very important to our values. We talked a little bit before about, there's a lot more money to be made in online sponsorship and online websites with things like gambling and things of that nature. That's how we started out. We started making money in that way. But as we grew and as we became more about young people, more about creativity, more about nurturing young people, it didn't fit to take that money. It didn't fit to take those types of advertorial anymore. So the center of everything we do, it's about helping people, because I know that my family, that these people that we mentioned at the internship, that there are now hundreds of people that have written for SoundSphere over the years, and they've all helped me. You're helping me by giving me this platform to talk about what we do, and that's the crucial thing. Why wouldn't I help people? Because so many people have helped me, and that's what I try and do. Of course, there'll be people that don't like what we do. You can't please everybody all of the time, but I try to help as many people as I can, because I understand I was helped so much when I was starting out.
I also think the reason why some people might be a bit hesitant to press it forward, because I feel like nowadays people can throw on you like that.
That's a very, very interesting point you make, and I obviously I'm of a certain age, as I'm a couple of years away from 40, and I think I started out again in my early 20s and earlier than that with the interest in journalism and the passion for it. Now, even back then, it was a little bit like that. But again, if we're gonna get philosophical, I can understand why people are like that. People want to protect their spot, they want to protect their income, they want to protect their space. Now, not everybody has the privilege, as we've talked about before, that I had. I was very supported growing up, and then when I started a business, I was very, very supported. I had all the boxes ticked, as we touched on before. All the boxes ticked. So, I was a young person in the north of England trying to start a creative product, a magazine, a physical magazine as it was then. So that was a box ticked. I had I have I have a disability. Still definitely have a disability. But that was another box ticked. And so from that standpoint, people wanted to invest money in me, and hopefully, well, I'm lucky that people still do that now. And so that's the key, and I recognize that not everybody has that. So I'm lucky and privileged to drown out the noise. If there's anybody who is talking down about SoundSphere, I don't need to worry about it, because I'm just focused on what I'm trying to do. If there's anybody that's ever tried to do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to worry about it. But I think you're right. I think from a wider societal standpoint, I do think that people are trying to protect their spot. But I can understand why that is. Jen, going back to those people, Jen, Faye, Darren, Giles, they didn't need to help me, but they did. And that's what I've taken forward. I could be making loads of money, as we talked about on the online advertorial, the gambling stuff, but I don't want to do that because it doesn't fit with my values, and I don't need to do that because fortunately a lot of people invest time and energy into us, and that is a luxury that, you know, if we're talking empathetically, as you and I can do, thinking about other people, not everybody has that luxury, Anthony, and that's why I understand why people want to protect their spot, you know.
But for me personally, going back to the gambling sponsorships and things
Mm,
like that,
mm,
if I'm being honest with myself, I couldn't, I could never take them because I would feel a bit dirty to be honest because,
mm.
you know, because even if you do it with the best of intentions, you know, if somebody started having a gambling problem because of me, I would feel guilty.
Yep, yep, and that's absolutely up to you. And like we say to anybody, because there's not, you know, there are ways to make money online from a website and a platform, but that is one of the ways. So, you know, as we've said before, I'm not going to hold that against anybody, you know. And there's people that we watch that are very, very open about the types of ads that they use, and that's fine, you know. I mean, gambling adverts are on WWE. They're on loads and loads of mainstream YouTubers. You know, fine. That's their vibe. That's what they want to do. But like for us, as what we are effectively these days is an educational resource supporting young people, supporting academic institutions. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because I want a young person from a university to write a review for us. I want them to tell their mum. I want them to tell their dad. I want them to tell their little sister, their little brother. I want them to tell their grandma. I want them to tell their fish. I want them to tell everybody. And if their grandma goes on Soundsphere and goes, hang on a second. There's a gambling advert on here. What's this about? Is this a music website or is it promoting gambling? And you know, do you see what I mean? I want,
Yeah.
and I get it. I get, like we said, I get anybody who wants to use that. But for me and the type of work I do, and remember, of course, as you know, another job as a mental health counselor. I am a counselor for people with disabilities, for people with addiction, for people in the music industry. And so for me and my values these days, because like we said, you know, in my early 20s, I certainly took some of that money. But now, and in the person I am now, it doesn't align with me, and that's why I choose personally not to take that money.
But for me, yeah, for me, yeah, knowing my personality, it would be like like a mental battle for me. 'Cause obviously, I'm not gonna lie, I would really like the financial side of it. But
Mm.
as I said, I wouldn't want to be the star of somebody else's addiction because I got them, because I got them. Oh, Dolly, if you know what I mean.
I do. I absolutely do know what you mean. And that is a, you know, again, there'll be lots and lots of people, YouTubers, content creators, website owners that are having to deal with these, you know, because it's an ethical consideration, and they've got to deal with that. And any one of those people that comes to this channel, that comes to the Anthony podcast, you know, we're not saying, neither you or I is saying we're going to judge you watching this for doing that. We're not saying that, are we? What we're saying is it's your choice fundamentally, but these are the reasons why, as you've talked about, that you wouldn't want to do it, and obviously again the reasons why I don't want to do it.
I'm certainly not judging people because if I'm being honest, as I said, I would have more battle with myself because I definitely would like the pay that comes with it. As I
Mm,
say, I wouldn't want to contribute to somebody's addi start of somebody's addiction.
mm. No, no, very, very, very good point. Very, very good point, and worth talking about. And again, not to be too cheesy, but I think it's an interesting debate. So anybody that watches this, listens to it, and has anything to say, put it in the comments. Let us know, and I'm going to check. You know, obviously, I'll be checking out the video and stuff. So I'll happily reply to people. I'm sure Anthony will as well. It's a very, very interesting debate. Would you take that kind of money? Have you been offered it? And what are your considerations about it?
Please be honest. As we said, we're not gonna judge anybody if you did. Good for you. If you didn't, good for you. As I said, we're not gonna judge anybody. So please be honest.
Absolutely, absolutely. We encourage it. We encourage it.
So, so going back to what we were talking about, how you're willing, how you're, how you're willing to play, to play the, to play the knowledge forward.
Yeah,
So, so, so so, for example, how do you do that? Do you like to give advice or do you, do you
yeah,
send people some of your work?
yeah.
I,
Yeah. So what I would say, like I say to anybody, the number one rule is to really research before you get in touch with somebody. Again, your favorite magazine or blog. What do you like about their work? Who do you read? Who is your favorite reviewer? And I would say that to anybody, it would be a key piece of advice. But when people come to me, they want to get into alternative music journalism, so indie rock, heavy metal, electronic music, and usually they've read a review or they've read what we've done,
Funny.
and then they get in touch. And so what I'll do is I'll offer advice. I'll say, well, try, they'll send me some work. I'll give it a shot. I'll have a look at it. If it's right for the website, we'll put it up, and then we'll give them a byline. Maybe, sometimes it's the first thing they've ever published, which is great. We're so lucky to have that, and people want to do that. Also, we're one of the only platforms in the north of England that pays writers regularly, pays freelancers. That's something you and I have talked about as well. We do pay writers. Screensphere paid people from the start. uh, you know, um, and SoundSphere pays people usually after an internship or a placement that they've done with a university. We'll pay again freelancers, that people that choose to go freelancers, they can choose to continue on with us. So we do offer paid opportunities, and we are still, and it was the same. This is one of my great criticisms of the industry, and it was the same when I started out. I had to work for free for a lot of years. That is still the industry standard practice. You work for free for a lot of years, and it's something that because I've done that, and because I've worked, I worked so hard. If somebody comes to me and they say, "Look, I need to be paid," I'm like, "Yeah, cool. What's your rate? Let's have a discussion," because I understand the need for people to, make rent, and a lot of writers are in London, where cost of living is higher. The Midlands, of course, certain areas, the cost of living is higher. So, there are certain cities close to me, of course, like York and Leeds, where, of course, the cost of living is higher. So, you've got to take that into account. So, where possible, we will pay people. And, I am very surprised, always very surprised, when it comes up in conversation. We're still one of the only places nationally, like the whole of the UK, that pays people regularly.
I think, I think, I think, I think I think you as sounds clear. You deserve a lot of credit for that because as you say, there's some places where they still expect people to be like, I don't know what the right word is, but they expect people to just be happy working for free. And
Yeah.
I don't know whether to include this or not, but with everything going on at the moment, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, yeah, and but this is the key, and again, this is another big philosophical question and conversation. So, again, to drop the cheesy line, feel free to comment on this if you with what you think. But it's because it's such a popular industry, right? Everybody wants to work in journalism. Everybody wants to, you know, be a content creator. So there's a lot of people out there because why, again, I mean, um, again, it's not for me to judge anybody, but if you can have somebody work for free rather than paying them, a lot of people do that. And of course, let's be honest, the way SoundSphere works, of course, we work with universities. The difference is the students get something out of it. They'll get a recommendation. They'll get, again, they'll get the potential of paid work afterwards with us. Sorry, Lou wants to get involved. Lou's shouting out. on the podcast. So everyone say hi to my dog Lou. He's wonderful. Anyway, my point that I'm making is that it's a very attractive industry. It's like music. It's like any, everyone wants to work in it. So some people, not everybody, but some people take advantage of that. Some people are like, well, you'll work for free for the exposure. It's like, oh, well, why don't you work for free? And it's expected. It's standard. But this is where your big issue comes. And this is another, and I won't go too deep into this. A lot of the most attractive industries in the world. So your journalism, your media, your central government, there is a class divide because the only people that can afford to work for free for a certain amount of time usually they've come from,
A wealthier background.
yeah. So there you so and this is where the great disparity is in the industry, in a lot of industries, in the cool industries, is because the people can afford to do that usually come from something, and they can afford to work for free. And so the people that get the jobs at the end of the day, and of course we could go really wide and we can go, well, why, do politicians and why do people in central government not understand what it's like to live on this state or not understand what it's like to live in a certain community because they've never had to. You see what I mean? And it's the same in the music. I'll come back to your question. Sorry, I have neurodivergence and ADHD, Anthony, so
It's okay.
my mind goes everywhere. So my point is that this is where the big challenge is. The industry expects you to work for free, but the only people that can afford to do that usually have a certain degree of money anyway. So what Soundsphere set up to do, because I am one of the, again, I was very supported as a young person. I was told I could do a lot of things and I had a lot of support, like we've said. So why Soundsphere set up, going back to your point, was because I recognise that not everybody can afford to do that. Not everybody has family in London like I do. Not everybody has, the boxes ticked like I did. And so Soundsphere was set up to support people from areas like Scunthorpe, areas like Preston, areas like Derby, areas like, X, Y, and Z, you name it, smaller towns and cities that don't have that ecosystem and usually don't have that infrastructure. And we've had people go on from those cities working for us, go on to top level journalism jobs in the UK, in London, in Los Angeles, in New York, and they've come from Soundsphere, so we know that what our system works. Of course, there are holes in it. Of course, there are people that don't like how we work, but fortunately, I know that the system does work. Our system does work. We do help people, and I'm really, really, really proud of that.
Uh, that's that is something to be very proud of because it's not easy building a platform and being able to give people opportunities, especially now because obviously there's so many platforms that it's hard to gain traction, isn't it?
It is absolutely, absolutely, and this as a content creator, finding your niche is really, really important. And again, from the north of England and working in the creative industries worked in our favour. Again, it was another box to tick. You know, I think Lou agrees with me as he's barking in. He's barking in agreement with me. That's how I like to think. Um, but that we had, that's the other thing people have to remember about Soundsphere and Soundsphere success. I knew what the unique selling point was. I knew that working in the north of England was different. I knew that me being someone with a disability, working in creative industries was going to be different. The amount of people that give me time and energy from their day or I get extra. Sometimes people give me extra time in interviews, because they want to talk about, because they're enjoying the conversation, because they want to know about what I'm doing, which I know isn't the point, and I don't make a point of talking about myself in interviews unless it's like this. Um, but like a lot of bands and artists are like, they're like, wow, that was you know, because I'm different. I'm different when I walk into the room on my two sticks. I'm different when when people know I've got cerebral palsy. They're like, holy. holy, monkey, you're doing something cool. And that's why it works. And again, not everybody has that. I understand that. But that's why I know why it works. I know why it works for people. And that's the key. It's finding the niche. It's finding the niche, and you have your niche. You know, I always say about Tom Talks Rubbish. He's the journalist. He's the journalist because because he's interviewing all the wrestling journos. You've got to have your niche, and I think that's really important. And so I would encourage anybody, you know, who's 16, 17 watching this, or anybody younger, start your own blog, start your own YouTube now, and then use that, grow it, and use it as a portfolio piece for when you want to go to your favorite magazine. You can be like, look, I've done stuff. I know my value. I know what I can do. And that's really important. That's really important.
Do you think I, I don't want to get too I don't know how to word this without being too political, but because the way society's going at the moment, yeah, then could you see a lot of people getting discouraged?
Yes, 100%. And I think, we talked about this a little bit before. You know, people are afraid to give up their spot. People are afraid to give back because we live in certainly in the UK, but I know the US struggles with this and has struggled with this for a long time. And obviously we're very privileged in so many ways as Western countries, but there is a cost of living crisis, and people are afraid about making their rent. People are afraid about how they're going to survive, especially if they're in the creative industries, because there's less, again, less people can survive in the creative industries because of finances, etc., etc. A lot of people are working for free in the industry,
Yeah.
so people do get discouraged. Yeah, it's hard. It's really, really hard, but I will always say to people, anybody that's watching this, if you need some advice, I'm here. I want to
Okay.
support people. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll support people if I can do. Obviously, I know that you support people as well. You'll offer advice to people if they need it, because you have that empathy for other people as well, Anthony. And I think that's important. I just want to try and help people because people help me. I was very, very lucky. I know how lucky I am to be where I am. So I just want to help as many people as I can. And I think if you're discouraged, I get it. It's hard. In a lot of ways, it's way harder than it was when I was growing up because again, opportunity, again, everything has been stretched now. Everyone is a content creator. Everyone is an influencer, you know. So it's hard, but find your niche. Figure out what makes you unique, and that's really exciting when you figure that out. Figure out
So,
what makes you unique, I think.
so you mentioned finding what you mentioned finding out what makes you unique.
Yes, yeah.
What would you when did you find out what made you unique? How long did it take you to find it? Or are you still trying to find it now?
Now that is a great question. I hope this doesn't come across as to anybody watching. I've been around a long time, so I'm 38 at the time of recording. And I found out when I was about sort of, I would say 21 was when I first started making money. First started making the first bit of money on SoundSphere, and I'd just been given a grant by the City of York Council to do and York St John University, I believe. So shout out to those places to do the first print issues of SoundSphere, and I had to do a business plan, of course, right? And I had to figure out what made me unique. So again, we talk about the box ticket, right? Still to this day, although thankfully there's loads more magazines, loads more websites, and loads more creative platforms up here in Yorkshire in the north of England. Um, but back then it was less, especially in Yorkshire. Manchester's always had it. Leeds has always had it to a certain extent. But like where I was in York and where I'm from in Hull, there was nothing. So I was coming at it from okay, well, we're going to support bands and artists in the north of England principally, but with an international viewpoint. There's nobody doing that. right? There's Louder Than War in Manchester, but like there's nobody doing what we're doing, and again, nurturing young people, supporting young people, supporting academic institutions. And from 21, I knew that's what I wanted to do, because from a psychological standpoint, let's be real, the more people that care about Soundsphere outside of me, the better. So if
Yeah,
I can get, the other day, so one of our biggest success stories is a young, well, she was a young person then, about I think just under 18 when I met them through a youth organization in Hull called the Warren Youth Project, and I was brought in by the Warren Youth Project to support some young people there. And I came in, and Sophie is their name, and Sophie lives in London now. Is doing very, very well in journalism and PR, music PR, and she's from Scunthorpe. And the other day I went to she'd come to visit, because obviously Scunthorpe and Hull aren't too far away. Uh, she'd come into Hull, and I met her for a coffee. This has a point. And we went for a coffee, and she's like, I wouldn't be where I am without you, thank you, which was lovely. But then I met her parents for the first time, because of course she doesn't get to see her parents very often. She's living in London. Her parents came out to see her in we were actually in Beverley in East Yorkshire, and her parents came out to see her, and it was the first time they'd met me, and they said, "Thank you so much for giving our daughter the start, to get her to where she was." Now that's the point. Now I'm not trying to do that in terms of, oh, look at me, check me out. What I'm saying is that's the point. If Sophie's mum and dad care about Soundsphere, what does that benefit? It benefits the
yeah,
business.
benefit you and the business. Well, the business mainly.
Exactly. Right. So I knew from 20, like I said to you before, 24, I started helping young people. I started helping people that were 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, etc. at 24, because I knew that Soundsphere on its own as a North of England alternative publication was cool, and that was different, right? It was different to Louder Than War, which is our closest, top level competition. Although I love John Robb, I think he's a genius, and he's a legend in punk music. Louder Than War are incredible at what they do. But the point I'm trying to make is, I had to, I was like, okay, that's cool, but what if we help young people? What if we give young people the start that I had? What if I say, right, okay, you can't afford to move to London, no problem. We can set you up with X, Y, and Z big interview. And you've seen the type of interviews that we do, right? Like decent stuff. You working with top level musicians, top level bands, WWE, X, Y, and Z wrestling company. And I don't do all those interviews, Anthony. Somebody, I'll give that to a young person who's interested in wrestling. I'll trust them with that, in the way that I was trusted to do the Ramstein interview. Remember, circling back,
Yeah,
right? I will trust them. And very rare, a handful of times, there's only a handful of times where people have maybe had some stuff to learn, improvements, whatever. But like so many, and that's cool as well because everyone's learning. But like honestly, I've had so many people be like, that was you helped me interview my favorite band. You helped me interview, you helped me go to my favorite gig, because we get guest lists, like, in the UK, but in
yeah,
around the world. We're so lucky. And it's interviews like this when I'm sat here talking to you, and I realize just how lucky we are. So going back to the point, we've connected people with their dreams, and we've helped people live their dreams. And that was always my goal. I've lived my dream doing this, but it matters more if I can help other people do that.
yeah. Like, I don't really know how to approach this, but if somebody comes to you and says that they want to do journalism, but you can you can sort of know that 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 they that they need a lot of work, or they're
Hmm.
just not suitable for whatever reason.
Hmm.
How do you personally approach that subject with them without trying to crush their
Yeah,
dreams?
Yeah. Well, I've had that loads. I've had that loads. Not everybody is taken to my, super quick way of speaking, for example. And you may, like I say, I've been called meandering by, some of the greatest rock stars in history. So I've had to take on criticism, and still to this day we get rejected for things. It happens. So I'm still learning all the time, and I'm not the best journalist in the world. I'm not the best interviewer in the world. There's always things I can learn, but I am willing to do that. But going back to your point, if someone comes to me, what I'll normally do is there's an art, and people use it in corporate settings, and it's the compliment sandwich, right? And this is like, okay, so this is great. This needs a little work. This is also great. I will always try and find two things that I love about that person's work. Enthusiasm. Um, let's have a think. Enthusiasm and um, like let's say knowledge of songs, right? So knowledge, enthusiasm and knowledge. But more often than not, as you can imagine, especially with the written word, the middle slab is usually spelling and grammar, right?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll be like, great passion. I can read the passion in your writing, which is, normally true. If somebody wants to do the work, they're really passionate. The other side of it is, again, they normally have a passion for the band they're writing about. So, like, they'll know the songs, so they'll have the knowledge. So, passion, knowledge. If they've got some spelling issues, some grammar issues, um, I'll be like, maybe work on this. But like, I've had that. So I would always say to anybody, like, man, you're always going to be learning. I'm still learning stuff. I make mistakes all the time, right? All the time. It always happens. It happens to everybody. Just keep going. Just keep on trucking, right? Keep on doing the thing. Keep on being you, and somebody will care. Somebody will give you that start. Whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, people will get behind you. You just gotta, the passion is the key, the enthusiasm is the key, as we've said before, and it's the super cliche thing that you and I talk about. What's the number one rule for everything, right? Everything, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a journalist, what's the number one rule, Anthony? Can you remember it? If you can't remember it, don't worry about it, because I'm about to shout it out anyway. Can you remember the rule?
Honestly, not.
Don't worry
Um,
about it. Don't worry about it, because we're going to chat it again. We're going to shout it again so that it's on record again, so that anybody that comes on, don't be a dickhead. That's the number one rule. Just don't be a tit. Don't be a dickhead. Don't be whatever you want to call it. Excuse my language. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a muppet. Don't be mean. Don't be, you get the rule. Don't be a dickhead is the number one rule. And then if you're not a dickhead, everything grows from there. Fundamentally, base level, if you're a good person, right, things will sprout from there like a disco. I was like a disco tree, right? Things will spout from you not being a dick. You can always get better at writing. You can always get better at, crafting a paragraph. But fundamentally, the base level, that's you. Nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody else can teach you that. Like, just don't be a dickhead. Be nice. Be good, right? Be a good person. Help people out, and things will happen. Don't be a dickhead.
the
Fundamental.
the reason I agree with that, by the way. The reason why I ask that question, because sometimes people reach out to me, and even though I want to be supportive, I do want to give constructive criticism. I also don't want to destroy their dream,
Yeah,
and
man.
and even when I do give them advice, I do think to myself, I don't know. I don't know whether they'll be able to make it or not. Do you sometimes think that, or that just a me pro that just a me thing?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I say, compliment sandwich is really, really useful. Again, I always end it with a good bit of, good note. Pack the criticism in the middle. Um, you know, but I think going back to your point about whether people will make it, I don't know. I never want to make. This is just me, because everybody. Like, I don't know about you, man, but I've been written off so many times, I've been written off so many times for not being good enough, not being capable. I'm talking about in everyday life. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do that. You know, um, and so I try not to do that,
I mean,
even if,
I don't. Obviously, I know you completely, but I do think that internally. I even think about myself sometimes.
yeah, I know you do. But this is it. This is what I'm saying, man. Like, we're our own harshest critic. I will leave this conversation and be like, oh, I wish I'd said that. Or does Anthony know how much I value him? I'll leave it and I'll be like, oh shit, I should have probably said this or that, right? We're all our own harshest critics, right? And that is a sad, again, it's part of being human. But at the end of the day, you know, just it's difficult. I just never want to. I never want to be the type of person that writes somebody off because because I was written off. You know, people still write me off, man. But I'm just in a position now where I don't have to give a shit because I'm doing stuff that I believe in and that I love. You know, but like, or I give less of a shit anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is like, you will make mistakes. You'll be rejected. You will be upset. You will be angry. But I don't know, man. Just keep doing what you want to do, and somebody will invest in it. Now, there's the flip side to it, of course. Like, if it's not working, trust your gut. Try something else. Like, if it's not working and you keep getting knockbacks and you don't, to the point where you don't believe in it anymore, then maybe try something else. Try a different idea. But if you always believe in it in your heart and you believe in it, and people, I don't know, comment on your videos or people write comments on your articles, then people care. People believe in it, other people believe in it. And that's the key. That's the key. How does it work? What are you offering? If we're going to get corporate about it, what are you offering and how does it benefit somebody else? What are you selling and who's buying it? And why are they connecting with it?
Yeah,
It's not enough to put something out in the world and just hope for the best. You've got to connect it with people. Why is Soundsphere different? Because we help young people that can't afford to do an internship or a work placement in the where I think when I started it was where 80% of the industry is. It must be less than that now. But 80% of the media industry was down in London, right? Everybody was like, go to London, move to London. You know as well as I do, it's very expensive to live in those types of places, right? So where does Soundsphere fit in? We are the alternative. We are quite literally the alternative. And universities go, right, okay, you from X, Y, and Z economic background, you can't go to London, but we have Soundsphere. We know Dom. Let me connect you with Dom. They run remote placements where you can sit and do your placement from your own home because you might have neurodivergence, you might have a disability, right? Doesn't mean that you can't do, as you and I well know, does not mean you can't do a good quality interview that changes your life. It does not mean that you can't write a good article. It does not mean that you can't have a meeting, right? So that's what makes us unique. And I know that not a lot of people are doing that in that way.
yeah.
So I know the value of what we do and why it works.
And and not and and I just want to be clear what I was saying. 'Cause I know it's probably saying like I was being an arsehole,
No,
but
no, it doesn't sound like you. No, not at all.
but as I said, I do question whether I'm gonna make it to it. I want to go to. It's not like I'm looking down on people. I question myself even.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. I get it. I do it all the time. I'm
And
not
at,
gonna pretend.
and at the end of the day, because it's such a big industry, not everybody's gonna make it. Like some people, they have the passion, but they just they just they just don't connect, or they just, it's all about fate, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sometimes you're gonna get
it
the
is.
break, sometimes you're gonna get the break, and sometimes you aren't. And some people have to work for 15 years before they get that break, and some people have the break straight away.
Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. You're absolutely right, and I think this is what where is interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting conversation because it depends what you want out of work, out of life, right? Because so you're talking about not making it, but like I don't know, man. Like I always think when I look at your work, I'm like you put your heart and soul into it, and you've interviewed notable people, you've interviewed people all from all different lifestyle stuff. So for me, I'm like, that's amazing. I think that's great. And it's different to, X, Y, and Z person that just interviews wrestlers, or X, Y, and Z person that just interviews, you do lifestyle stuff. You do stuff with notable people. You do stuff with people like me, just general, everyday people, and I think that's important, man. And, you know, I think of course, there's more you can do. Of course, there is. There's always more you can do. But I always think with you, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like more than me, because I mean, to get real deep with you, right? You can't really see like that I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z disability or difference, right? But I always think because of what you do and how you do it and how articulate you are, you might not think you are, but you're a really good person to have a conversation with. Um, I always think, man, there's people. I mean, you just telling me there, like people message you asking for advice. So, like, I think you've made it already. I know what you're saying, but the point when people are asking you for advice, to me, that's like because people go, "Can hell, that guy's." Not because you're so inspirational. No, it's nothing to do with that. It's not about inspiration porn or whatever. Like, oh, this person's disabled. Oh, he's making a YouTube. So that's not about that. It's about the quality of your work. It's about you not being a dickhead, and it's about you putting your heart and soul into it. You can see that you put your heart and soul into it in your eyes, in the way that you speak, and like Emma, like Emma's always watching your stuff, and like she's always watching, wondering how you're doing, and like, well, what this sounds a bit weird. Sometimes we'll watch you in bed. Yeah, yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, yeah. But what I'm saying is because people give a shit about you, man. People care. And it's not because of not because you're an inspirational person, but like to some people you are. Some people you motivate. So to me, you've already made it. But I see what you're saying. I get it. There's always more to do. But to me, like you've already made it.
And at
You
the
know?
end, and at the end of the se- at the end of the day, excuse me,
Yeah.
success is subjective. What I view as success might be different to somebody else, or might be different to you.
It is.
Like for me, success would be going full time with this, and this being my career.
Yeah, and I still believe that's absolutely possible. And this is what I'm saying, dude. But it takes time. Not everybody's going to get it at first, right? I mean, look at, like obviously we make money, but our YouTube, we're only like 3,000 plus subscribers, you know. Give me a whole year is the same, so it's not like loads and loads of money, but we found other ways to figure it out. And again, I have other forms of income. Obviously, I have my counseling work, so which is obviously tied with the music stuff, but still, it's about just keeping on. Like, just keep doing it. As you just said, people take 15 years. Doesn't mean that their stuff is any less important than the person that took a year, but it's just a different journey. It's a different journey,
Yeah.
man. But like you perfectly capable. I think whether you end up monetized full time or not, like my life is richer because I know you, and because I found because we found each other, and I think that's a beautiful thing, man. And I know that Tom feels the same way, and numerous other people we know feel the same way. Like it's you're right. Success is relative, and neither of us are like billionaires off YouTube or anything, and we're not trying to pretend to be. But like, I'll put it to you like this, right? If not you, who else? If not you, who else is going to do you? Who else is going to do you the way you do? It sounds real cheesy, right? But like, who else is going to do it? Right? There's loads and loads of disabled YouTubers. There's loads and loads of wrestling YouTubers. There's loads and loads of lifestyle YouTubers. But not everybody's mixing it up like you are. Not everybody's figured out, not everybody's putting their heart and soul into it like you are. And I'm talking about some of my other friends, like I count you as a friend, of course. But like, I like their work, but like, I don't feel it, I don't feel it as much as I feel it when I'm watching you, which is a weird sentence to add just after